Superman is written and directed by James Gunn and is the cinematic launch of the new DC universe under him. The soft launch happened on HBO Max with Creature Commandos a few months ago, but now we're getting fully into what this new universe has to offer. And here you follow Superman, played by David Corenswet, as someone who has been revealed to the public for quite some time now. He's already proven that he is someone capable of saving as many people as he can and doing as much as he can to help the world. However, he's also made some choices and mistakes along the way, and one of the recent choices that he's made is got him under some fire, and humanity is asking whether or not he can still be trusted. And this is all happening at a time when Lex Luthor, played by Nicholas Hoult, seems to be coming up with a new nefarious scheme in order to take him down once and for all. I've been a long-time fan of Superman. Ever since I was a kid, I have been a big fan of the character. Even if he was never necessarily my favorite DC character, I would always gravitate towards Batman comics and shows rather than Superman comics. There was always something I really enjoyed about the character. I remember watching the animated series when I was a kid, and I even had some action figures from that. And then I also had the Justice League animated series that I was a huge fan of. And then I remember my dad was going through some of his old stuff, and he found a copy of Action Comics Volume 1, which is the first appearance of Superman. Now that copy was not in the best condition, but they did just reprint it recently, so I actually have a copy of it over here that's reprinted, along with the ads that were there in 1939. And on the cinematic side of things, I always really loved the Christopher Reeve movies. Well, the first two, 3 and 4, a little less so, but I always thought Christopher Reeve did an incredible job as Superman. And then when it came to something like Superman Returns, which I thought was fine overall, Brandon Routh as Superman, I thought he did a pretty decent job. And I really liked the previous one we got with Henry Cavill, the Zack Snyder iteration of Superman. I loved Man of Steel, and subsequently I did enjoy Batman v Superman and Zack Snyder's Justice League. And so going into this, like I said, there's a lot of stuff, a lot of history that has been building over here. And watching this movie, I was very, very happy with it. I think James Gunn has done an incredible job with this version of Superman. It's very clearly inspired by the All-Star Superman run, which I highly recommend reading if you have not read that, because there's a lot of choices which are made over here, especially when it comes to the structure and when it comes to the story being presented, that makes a lot of sense if you've read that particular 12-issue run, especially the part where it starts in the middle of things. This doesn't have an origin story. You are straight into the action when it comes to Clark being Superman. And in that comic, there's a very similar thing where characters will pop up every now and then, stuff's just happening, and you're thrust right into the middle of it all. And it can feel a little bit jarring at first because, you get through the first couple of issues, you're like, well, hold on. If I'm not fully, aware of all of these characters or what's going on, I might be a little lost. And there is a similar thing like that when it comes to this movie as well. It takes a minute to get your bearings a little bit and to really, focus up on what's going on, because again, characters are already existing in this universe and things are already happening when it comes to, what Superman has to deal with and the people in his life like Lois Lane or his parents or even Krypto. It's all sort of coming together very, very quickly. But I think that once it does find that footing and once it continues to keep going, you get some really, really great stuff. David Corenswet is incredible as Clark and Superman. I think he did a fantastic job here, and he perfectly captures that the niceness and the humanity of Superman, which comes through despite the fact that he is an all-powerful alien who can do some extraordinary things. And there is something so endearing about him that every single time he's on screen, which is a lot, as you'd expect, he really manages to, bring that sense of hope and joy to the character, which really makes him, as good as he is. I think he did a phenomenal job with that. And I also love how much the movie emphasizes just how much Clark wants to help people. He just wants to be there for as many as he can, and it doesn't he's not thinking about what if the optics, politically speaking, might be something or the other. People need help. He's going to go and help them. And with the version of the character who is as hopeful as him, you also get a villain who is just as dastardly evil as it gets with Nicholas Holt's version of Lex Luthor. Luthor. I thought he was excellent too. And just the most shady, repulsive version of Lex that you could think of. This is not a man who is necessarily standing around trying to be like, all right, you know what, maybe one or two things can be spared. In his quest to take down Superman, when it comes to, this insecurity or this envy that he has over the mere existence of Superman, and something that constantly, it is grating on him every single day. The fact that he is willing to let anything happen just so that he can get a shot at ruining Superman somehow. It leads him to do things in this movie where you're like, there is no forgiveness for the guy. You are flat out evil. And the genius mind of yours, which you're using for something like this, I mean, it is sadistic at times. I also really loved Rachel Brosnahan as Lois Lane. There's a couple of moments in here where she's very much trying to, channel a bit of Margot Kidder, which I thought was really cool. But there's also this, very fun investigative side to her where she's trying to be involved in the action as much as, she can, and trying to do something about, helping as many people as she can. And I think they captured that really well too. There's some scenes with her and Clark, which I thought were highlights of the movie. Honestly, I will say maybe I would have liked more, a little bit more of that, but I think the moments that you do get with them were great. And then, of course, there's Krypto, because it's in typical James Gunn fashion. There's that one animal character or non-human character who everyone sort of rallies behind, and there's this really great, emotional arc that you get with him. In this case, Krypto being a dog who doesn't really listen to Clark and will, just do all kinds of stuff. Eventually, as the movie goes on, you can't not love this dog. He's adorable and beautifully brought to life on screen. I loved Krypto, and maybe it's because I'm a dog owner as well, and my own dog kind of reminds me of Krypto. But maybe it's because of that. But I will admit there's a little bit of a bias over there. Something that you might hear a few divided opinions on are the visuals. I thought it looked fine for the most part. There were a couple of moments where it was very clearly CGI, where you could kind of see it, and it was rubber people. And there's this one part where there's some sparking going on where I'm like, that looks kind of unfinished. But there's also some really cool stuff when it comes to some of the visuals over here and some of the camera work that's done that I really, really liked in it. And I liked some of the color schemes. It's very comic booky when it came to a lot of those aspects. It very much does, honor the source material and what it's deriving from in the history of Superman to really bring this version to life. The score as well from John Murphy and David Fleming, and incorporating themes from John Williams's score for Christopher Reeve's version, and really bringing this, a new vibe to it, something that fits this version of Superman. I think they nailed that too. I really loved the score for this movie as well. Really, I think they did a great job with so much over here. The Justice Gang, or whatever they want to call themselves, was also a lot of fun. I thought Guy Gardner, Nathan Fillion, was really cool. I thought he was a bit of a douchebag, but then it's kind of the point with Guy Gardner. He's not exactly, the most kind soul when it comes to being a Green Lantern. And Hawkgirl, Isabella Merced, I liked her too. Mr. Terrific, Eddie Gathegi, I thought he was great. He gets a lot of time, and I really, really liked what he brought to it. And there were moments with him where it's just incredibly awesome. There's one scene in particular, which is this action sequence, and you really get to see him shine. I thought they nailed that one. That was terrific stuff over there. But because there's a lot of characters like that, sometimes things can get lost. And that is something that I would say was a flaw with the movie. Sometimes it can feel a little too stuffy. You're not getting a lot of time with characters. Some emotional moments might not be able to land as much. But there are moments that do land. And the moments that are supposed to land, I thought they nailed those perfectly. And by the end of it, I still walked out with a huge smile on my face. Really, at the end of the day, I'm just very happy with the movie overall. I think James Gunn did a fantastic job with this. I really like the trajectory where a lot of this, seems to be going, this new DC universe. Peacemaker is also coming up soon. I really loved season 1. And so I'm excited to see what the future is going to be and to see a lot more of these characters going forward. And I can't wait to, explore more of what this version of the DC universe has to offer. I'm gonna give Superman a 9 out of 10. I'm really happy with it. I really, really am. I thought it was a wonderful time, and I highly recommend going and checking it out. I will probably go and see it again soon. Guys, thank you very much as always for watching. Look forward to more videos very, very soon. As always, if you like this, please do subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the movies.